Hey everybody, this is the Sliders Review. I'm here today to talk to you about the mysterious Benedict Society, Season 1, Episode 1 and 2. So this is a show that's on Disney Plus, and when I was on Disney Plus watching The Secrets of Sulphur Springs, I wasn't able to click off the next video coming up in time, and then this show came up. So I'm like, okay, whatever, I'll watch it. Like the main poster of the show, the thumbnail of it looks pretty interesting and stuff. And so it looked like this really interesting, adventurous kid drama type, like British looking show. That's what it looked like to me at first glance, right? Turns out it's not even a British show. It's actually an American show with a bunch of like Canadian actors and stuff. And so as I'm watching it, I'm just like, because when you look at the cover of it, it's very bright, and it looks like it's based off of a children's like novel, which this show is and everything. It's from a series of books that I'd never even heard of, and so when you also look at this show, it looked like it could be a Netflix show. It looks like a watered down version of a series of unfortunate events. Like it has kind of like that look, that aesthetic type look. It has that similar color palette. It has that quirkiness to it, but it's more like a watered down version of it. It's not as extreme as the series of unfortunate events with these characters and the way they talk and the way they act, and the narrator who is the author of the book and stuff like that. And so like this show is pretty interesting. Like it's probably best if you binge it all at once. I think it's about 6 or 8 episodes. I'm only have watched the first two and a little bit of episode 3. Um it's so far it's a pretty interesting show, but it does take a good while to like get into because the first episode is very slow. Like it builds up very, very, very slowly and stuff. And so basically when you watch the first episode, it's just like all you see is a bunch of kids taking on like extremely hard tests that's like hard to figure out and stuff. And so it's like, okay, we know there's a bunch of kids taking a bunch of tests, and the main characters, so like they're very smart. And so, okay, what is this about? Like you constantly ask yourself when watching the first episode, what in the world is this about? And you don't find out to the very end of the first episode, and then once you get into episode 2, things really start picking up very quickly and stuff. And so yeah, so it's like it's a kids drama. It's similar to like what you normally see and stuff like a series of fortunate events, Harry Potter, The Chronicles of Narnia. Like it's one of those like young kid, the Worst Witch. It's like one of those kids young novels that has been now adapted. Also similar like also shows like I can't think the name of that show right now. But anyway, um, ironically, this came out on TV first before they ever made a movie. Normally, with stuff like this, they make the movie first, and if the movie doesn't do well, they bring it on over to like a TV show, streaming type thing. They did the reverse. They made this into a show first, and that's very shocking because normally the movie treatment comes first. But as we now have learned, movies aren't doing that well, and a lot of movies that are like say like The Golden Compass, I haven't seen that, but I heard it wasn't that great. And so they made a TV show out of that, and it's a whole lot better because I've watched that show. That's the one I can't think of the name. And then the series of unfortunate events, they made a movie out of that. Now, I watched the show first, and I ended up loving the show. I watched the movie. I didn't particularly like the movie. Some of the characters look very similar from the stars that played them, but it just had a completely different tone. Basically, the movie was Jim Carrey being Jim Carrey. And so since he stole the whole show, you don't really pay attention to what's going on. And they swapped around, bouncing around from book to book. Now, one of the benefits of having a show based off a novel and several novels is that it's smart to base your first, or it's best to base like a season per whatever book that is. So like season one, book one, season two, book two. However, with this show, the TV show creator, for some bizarre reason, is bouncing around books. So I don't know how that's gonna affect the fan base of this book. And also, like, I don't know if it's gonna tell like a better story or a disconnected story or what, because I've never read the books. And so far, this show has been renewed for like the second season. And so only time will tell if fans are gonna get like upset about them bouncing around from books to books. Because I know when it comes to the Chronicles of Narnia, one major problem people had with the third book is that it started introducing stuff from like another book. And so like I think also one of the later Harry Potter movies did the same thing, where they started introducing something from another book, and that really pissed off the fan base and stuff. And so like I said, only time will tell. Now, these first two episodes, I decided to review the first two because, like I said before, the first one is just so slow and it's not so much boring. It's just you don't know what the world's going on and stuff. Like, it's interesting, but there's nothing really to make you go, oh my god, like, you know what I'm saying, and stuff. So, this show, it starts off with a young boy. His name is Rainy, and he is a boy in an orphanage. And he's very fond of his teacher. Now, I'm not sure how to pronounce her name, Ms. Peruamel. And she's very fond of him too. She's a very nice lady. And Rainy is a very nice, somewhat shy little boy. He's not too shy, but he's a very polite person. And he's very smart. He's read every book in the orphanage, which they don't have many books. But unlike the other kids who just play around, he prefers to read. And so she tells him there is this ad about exceptionally smart young kids and some type of reward that they can like win and stuff. So she should suggest to him that he should do it. So he goes there, and the series of tests are very hard. Well, at some point later on they get very hard, but first it's like a questionnaire. And so, like I said, the color palette is very bright, and here comes a woman. We don't know this lady's name at first, but I'll tell you right here and now, her name is Number Two. And she's called Number Two because it's funny. Okay, so like I didn't know this until I went to Wikipedia like today, but I watched this a couple of days ago, and I'm just like, she always wears a bright colored outfit. It could be like yellow jacket and skirt, and she wears it with black boots, and sometimes it could be like a pant set or something else, but she's always, for the most part, wearing yellow. And I first started thinking of, what is it, Curious George and the man in the yellow hat and April O'Neil from the 80s Ninja Turtle. I started thinking of that, you know what I'm saying? But then all of a sudden there's this big emphasis on pencils in the first episodes, and I'm just like, she kind of reminds me of a pencil. And I'm like, wait, a number two pencil? She's number two, and it's like, oh, okay. So then when I went to Wikipedia today and read, it turns out, yeah, she is called Number Two because she wears yellow outfits that's similar to that of a number two pencil. And stuff. Oh boy. So anyway, she makes these kids take like a bunch of tests, right? And it's like a whole classroom full of kids. And they're very, very, very strict rules. You can't talk, can't cheat. And you just have to do your tests and stuff. And whoever passes goes on to the next phase. Well, Rainy is the only person in the entire classroom to pass. This pisses off the other students. They're all like, well, what's going on? We're smart. And stuff. So it's just a questionnaire. It's like a bunch of like mathematical stuff, a bunch of logical stuff, And, it's stuff asking, do you consider yourself a very confident person? And he's a very humble person. And he says that he likes to consider himself very confident, and stuff like that. And so, in a way, there's the second part of the test. And so he gets to walk around outside for a while, a bit before he gets to go to the second test. And so he meets a girl named Rhonda. And she says she has lost her pencil because you're only allowed to bring a number 2 pencil into the classroom, right? And so she lost hers, and she asked him, "Hey, can I borrow like one from you?" And so he's like, "Well, I only have this one." But then he thinks about it. He's like, "Wait, hold up. Do you have an eraser?" And she's like, "Yeah." So he breaks his pencil in half and he gives it her one half. And he's all like, as long as there's a pencil sharpener, both of us is good to go. And so she tells him, "Oh, that's so sweet of you. You know what? I'll let you cheat on my tests and everything." He's like, "Well, cheating's not allowed." She's like, "It'll be okay. I'll sit in front of you and stuff." So he goes there and he asks, "Hey, number 2, is there like a pencil sharpener and stuff?" So he sharpens his pencil. It's a slightly weird, awkward vibe. Like this show has a weird, awkward vibe to it because it's kind of like the Lemony's. It's kind of like the series of unfortunate events, So like it has that weird, quirky vibe to it. And so anyway, she's all like, "I'm done with my test. You want to cheat?" He's like, "No." And so then they ask like, well, then it's time for the grading paper. She's like, "All right, everybody who passed gets to stay there, and everybody who failed gets to leave." And once again, Rainey is the only person who passed. And then so now he's there for the third task and everything. And now he's greeted by a couple of other kids. The first kid is George Washington. No, I ain't making that name up. But he goes by the name of Sticky. Why? Because he has an eidetic memory. And an eidetic memory is somebody who can remember stuff just by looking at it. And they'll never forget it and stuff like that. So it's basically like you look at something and you retain it in your memory, and you can literally go through like your memory, kind of like files on the computer type thing. And so because of that, it sticks in his memory, so they call him Sticky. So him and Rainey are talking about how weird this whole like place is in the test, and then he mentions Rhonda, the girl who, or no, actually Rainey asks, "Was there a girl named Rhonda in your class?" And he's like, "Yeah, she lost her pencil. She wanted me to cheat." He's all like, so then Rainey's all like, "There's more to this place than meets the eye and everything." And so like, then they're greeted by another person, Kate. Now, Kate's a very adventurous type girl. She's very chatty, and she always carries around a red bucket. And in that red bucket is a bunch of tools. And she's just very outgoing and stuff. And so, oh, I forgot. So, what's his name? Sticky is kind of like the, oh my God, like kind of like the worry wart of like the show. Then they're greeted by another kid. I forget his name. And so, like, as all the kids are like talking and bonding and everything, they realize that they start to have something all in common. They start to talk about like their parents and stuff, and how they really, some of them don't really know them, and how some of their parents have died. And so the one boy whose name I can't remember, he said his parents love him and everything. Now the other boy, he's very athletic, very muscular and stuff like that. Not so much muscular, but you know what I mean. Like people who are like muscular, very athletic, like play sports and do push-ups. Like he's literally doing push-ups as he's talking to them and stuff. So now it's time for their third test, and their third test is a bit of a head scratcher. See, you have to be able to. Okay, so you're in a room. Oh, I forgot to agree by another girl. This other girl, and I forget the other girl's name. But anyway, so the next task is the other girl. There's nothing really much about her. She's just smart and cocky. So the next task is you have to be in a room, and in this room, there are all this like a pattern of like black squares, white squares, and a few yellow. And the instructions say your feet cannot touch the black or white squares, and you can only walk on the yellow to cross the room. And there's literally only, and it's like hundreds and there's like dozens of like black and white ones, but only probably like 5 yellow ones, and they're all spaced apart where you cannot get to them. And so the girls all like, oh, I know the answer to this. It's an impossible test. There's no way to do it. And they're like, you can go home now. She's like, what? Like, you have just failed the test. So she runs out screaming and crying and everything. Now, each kid, they do this task very differently. Sticky, he has decided he's gonna crawl on his well, he's just gonna crawl and everything, but he's not gonna put his feet on the ground. So he's like trying to do his best to keep his feet in the air. That way, his feet don't have to touch the white or black ones. Kate, she decides she's gonna take some rope out her bucket, make a lasso, throw it across the room to land on the other side of the door. And she attaches it to the other side of the door, and she just walks across the rope and everything. The boy whose name I forgot, he decided he's gonna take a more athletic approach. He's gonna do like a huge leap to the yellow one, then he's gonna leap to the other yellow one, and then he's gonna bounce off the walls and everything. And so Rainy, he's looking at it, and then you can see like the thoughts coming out his head, like the mathematical thoughts. And with a big smile on his face, he just decides to walk across every single last one, touching on the white and the black. And so when he gets on the other side, the other kids all like, what? You just walked across? Why? And he's all like, simple. It said, do not walk on the white and black squares. He determined none of those in there were squares. In fact, they're rectangles. So since they're rectangles and a rectangle is not a square, you can easily just walk through it and stuff. And see, Rainy is a very highly intelligent, logical person. And so with that, there is one last task. It's kind of like an obstacle type thing. You have to run through a maze, make your way to the other side, and then like ring the bell. And it says the first 3 people to ring the bell wins. So all the kids, they do it. They're running through this maze. It's like very dark. And so the kid whose name I forgot, he decides once he gets close to the finish line, it's him and Sticky. So he's gonna shove Sticky down, and Sticky screams like a girl. And so he pushes him down and he rings the bell. Now, Kate has already made it there. I think she went through like the walls and everything. But she decided not to ring the bell because she wants to do it with everybody else, like ring it all at one time and stuff. And so when everybody makes it there, Rainy, he literally helps like Sticky, walk because he hurt his leg and stuff. So Kate's all like, okay, let all 3 of us, let's ring it all at the same time because she wants to do it as like a group and everything. So they do it all at the same time. And then number 2 tells what's his name? The dude's name I forgot, that you have failed the test because the instructions clearly say the first 3 to ring the bell. So apparently the instructions wasn't like the first 3 as in individually, but as a group. And so they all passed. And then so in comes Rhonda of all people, and they're like, Rhonda, wait, what? You're not a kid? She's like, nope, I'm an adult. I'm in my 20s. She just looks like one, and because she's so short and everything. And so her and Rhonda are working together. Now they're also working with another man I forgot to mention. His name is Milligan. He's a very awkward, weird, big, bushy, bearded man. And he kind of has like this like weird glancing stare. And so like whatchamacallit. So like they now get to meet Mr. Benedict and everything. And so he asked them straight up, all y'all have something in common. Do you know what that is? And Rainy's all like, we're all orphans because Sticky parents died. And we learn in the second episode he ran away from his aunt and uncle. Kate, I forgot about her parents. And I forgot about Rainy's parents. But yeah, so like they're all orphans, which is hence the title of this episode, the first episode, which is why I didn't want to mention it, because it has the word orphans in it. And so you kind of pick up on that. And I'm kind of like, okay, the kid's name I don't remember. He clearly states he has parents. So I had a feeling he wasn't going to be put there. So then they're introduced to a new girl, Constance. Now, Constance did not take the test with all the other ones. She got to skip ahead because of certain things that she did. And basically, Constance is a little teeny tiny girl with these like loopy pigtails, and she always wears the color pink. And she's a very rude, very stubborn, very nasty little girl. And she always has, she's hilarious because of how rude she is, but she's a very rude, stubborn girl. And so they all like wonder, like, well, she didn't technically take the test the way everybody else did, and she got to like just skip on through. Why? Because she found other ways through it and stuff. When Rhonda lost her pencil and asked for her, Constance opens up her jacket, and in are dozens of pencils in her jacket and stuff. So she found like the C approach to answering the question. Is basically you're only given A and B, but you find like a way around that, which is like the C approach. And that's something James T. Kirk used to do in Star Trek, and something Sabrina did in the Chilling Adventures of Sabrina. And so, like, as they're talking to Mr. Benedict, he is a very oddball, shaggy-haired man. Like, he's very odd, very weird, very quirky. And he tells them he suffers from two diseases. One, where your body muscles go very weak, and two, narcolepsy, where he just falls asleep and everything. And it constantly happens. He has to always have somebody standing behind him, which is Rhonda and number two. And so like he tells them he's been lying to them, that this isn't some type of reward you're gonna get, but he actually needs them for a very special mission. And that very special mission is very dangerous, and it's only one that a child can go through. He tells them that there's a crisis, a global crisis happening in the world called the emergency. And these kids have to be able to shut it down. He shows them like a video or something, and he shows them subliminal messages within that video. And it's this organization that sends them all throughout the TV airwaves and stuff, because they're trying to brainwash people. So there's this organization that is only for kids, smart kids. And so that's why he needs them and to infiltrate this place. And the only adults there are ones that work there, and pretty much those that graduated from there and stuff. And so like in this place, it's called Live, and Live stands for the Learning Institute Vertus Enlightenment. And so it's run by a man named Mr. Curtin. Now, Mr. Benedict has never seen what Mr. Curtin looks like and stuff. He just knows he has to stop him. And so before he can explain anything further, the alarm sounds in the building. They are under attack by live agents. And so, the adult agents. And so it ends after that, and that's what caught my attention. I was like, oh my god, what's going to happen? And so then it goes into the next episode. So Mr. Benedict, number two, Rhonda, and Milligan, they try to get the kids to safety and everything. So they're running through the corridors and through the mazes and this and that as they're being pursued by like agents of Live. Constance decides she ain't dealing with this, and she's just gonna go in the other room and wait it out. While the other kids are like with the other group of adults. Number two decides she's gonna take a more hands-on approach and whips out her baton stick, one of those retractable kind that the police have, and she goes to fight the agents, which we don't get to see, sadly. It would have been nice if they did. Rhonda gets taken out because these agents have these devices on their hand that shoots out electricity. So it's basically like stunning somebody, but the stun only lasts for a while. They take her out, they take Benedict out. And so they have to like, you know, try their best to get away from these dudes. Eventually they do get the upper hand on the Live agents and take them all out. So the kids are now in safety. The kids are also mad at Constance for just like ditching them and everything. And so now they have to learn how to be these secret agents to go and infiltrate live. And they're learning Morse code because that's the way they're going to communicate from one another and stuff via flashlights. And so, oh, I remember now. Kate took out two agents by throwing metal flashlights at their heads. So anyway, so they're learning Morse code. Sticky remembers Morse code because he remembers just seeing it one day. And we get a little bit of his backstory. So his parents died. He went to go live with his aunt and uncle. They realized he could remember anything, so they used his gifts to their advantage. He went on spelling bee contests. He went on contest shows that grants people lots of money because of how smart you are. And he won every single last one, making his aunt and uncle very rich. But then he saw they started using them, so he decided to bet all the money and purposely get an answer wrong, and he loses. So this upsets the aunt and uncle, but they're kind of like just sad and depressed. So then he decides he's gonna run away from home, pretend and spy on them to see what they say about him. And so they all like, oh, I guess he really didn't like living here and blah, 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 and stuff like that. This hurts his feelings, and he runs away for reals. And so, and then he sees the ad for the Benedict, Mr. Benedict and everything. He decided to do whatever it is he wanted him to do. So that's his backstory. And so he teaches Rainey like Morse code. And no, he teaches Kate Morse code. And so when it comes time for Rainey and Constance to learn, Constance decides she's going to send him a message through Morse code. A very naughty one. One we have no idea what she says. And Rainey's all like, I can't say that. With a big evil grin on her face. I swear that girl. So Kate, before us audience got to learn about Sticky's backstory, Kate knew a tiny bit of that his parents died, but she didn't know why he ran away from home. She's all like, look, she tells him that in Morse code. She's all like, look, you can tell us, man, like, you can trust us. And so he decides he's gonna tell them and stuff. So now it's time for the big, infiltrate like the organization. They head out into the woods. They go and they have to catch a ferry. And so the people on the ferry, the same type of people who work for Live with the gray suits on and try to infiltrate the Benedict place. And so the kids are able to pass whatever it is they wanted, and they're able to go on the ferry. And so while they're there, the adults for Benedict, they are now in the woods camping out. Number two makes a log cabin out of like trees and branches and stuff. She's very good at that type of stuff, and she does it in a matter of minutes. Weird. And so the kids, once they make it inside Live, is very odd. The adults talk very weird. They have like these two adults that like are constantly around the four kids. They're always big and smiling, and they tell the kids there are no rules here and everything. You can eat what you want, you can watch TV when you want, and stuff like that, and you can walk wherever you want as long as you stay on the path. And so one of them sees this giant tower, and they ask, what is that? They're like, oh, that's the tower. Only the person in charge is allowed to go there, and the messengers, which are like kids, they send messengers to like the man in charge, and he sends out messages. So one thing I forgot to mention, back when they were with Benedict, the kids were trying to decide what they should call themselves. Kate wanted to call something after her name and like her group of friends, and I think so they couldn't really figure out what to say. So then Constance starts snoring real loud, and Rainey's all like, Constance, are you really awake and pretending to be asleep so you won't have to talk to us? And we see her with her eyes wide open and just snoring. So anyway, when they get to the ferry and everything, Constance decide, okay, look, let's just call ourselves the Benedict Society and everything, which is of course the title of the book. So it's just one of those fast, quick throwaway lines. So anyway, when they're there at that place, the boys are sleeping in one room, the girls are sleeping in another. When they find out what the whole tower thing is, they assume that's where like the brainwashing stuff happens, and they send like the messages and stuff. So Miss Adventurous Kate, she decides, hey, look, I'm finna scale that thing. And they're all like, but you can't do that. You'll get caught. She's all like, oh, no, we'll get caught. She's like, no, I'll probably get caught because I'm going alone. And I'm going to scale. That thing's like over 100 feet tall in the air. And so they're all like, no, you're not doing that. Or Rainy tells her, they're like, you're not doing that. You're going to blow our cover. And you just need to chill and everything. So then when they're there at night, they're talking and everything. Constance and Kate, they sneak through like the ventilation system to go into the boys' room. Now they have to give their Morse code signal to Benedict to let them know that they're in and they're safe. So they do that. And as they send Morse code, they have to talk in rhymes and riddles so that nobody can, so in case somebody sees it, they won't know what they're talking about. And so he keeps saying the word hide and everything. And they're all like, hide? Could that mean Jacqueline Hyde? And then they're like, oh no, it means hide. Because they almost got found out by like some guards and stuff. So then they head back like to like their rooms and stuff like that. So anyway, in this second episode, the one I've been talking about, they are in the class and they have to do a series of like tests again. And they're hard stuff to figure out. And so there's this one girl in the class, she's like really rude and she thinks she's the smartest person in the world, but she ends up getting questions wrong. And so, of course, our four heroes, they get the questions right. However, the question about the light bulb, only Rainy and Kate gets right. And so this impresses the headmaster of the school and everything, and he shows himself. It's very shocking who it is. He looks just like Mr. Benedict, but his hair is different and he's slimmer. The kids are very shocked and awe about this, and then it ends. And so I'll get into a little bit of what episode 3 is about. So they're very shocked, and so they're trying to figure out how can he look like Mr. Benedict. Kate's mind is all like out there, and she's all like, he must have been cloned. It must be aliens. It must be body snatchers. They're like, no, it's a twin. And they're all like, well, how come Mr. Benedict didn't mention he has a twin? And they're all like, maybe he doesn't know. So they have to send that message to him doing like Morse code. Now, they know they have to get in good with the headmaster. And the best way to get in good is to be a messenger. And the best way to be a messenger is to get all your answers right in your classes. So Rainy tells them, we have to be the best of the best students to become messengers and everything. And so as he's talking, he sees a man raking leaves, and he recognizes this man, and he runs up to him. He's all like, oh, hey, it's me, Rainy, from like the orphanage. Don't you remember? And the man's all like, no, I've never been to this. I never worked in the orphanage, and I don't know who this man is you're talking about, like his name and stuff. And so Rainy goes back to the group, and he's like, this is weird. He has this weird dull expression on his face, and he doesn't remember nothing. And so they don't understand why. And then so Constance all like, well, doesn't he remind you of somebody that y'all know? Talking about Milligan. Milligan has that blank, weird stare to his face, and he suffers from amnesia. He doesn't remember who he was in the past. And so now the story is picking up even more. Milligan was at some point was at this place. And so like, now when Constance is with the other group, she is experiencing some strange headaches, and she can start to hear a voice of a woman talking in her head. And this isn't explained just yet, but it'll be explained, I'm hoping, in the rest of the season and stuff. But it's peculiar because she's the only person who can hear it, and it's giving her severe pain. They send like an encrypted, they send a Morse code message to like Benedict and everything, talking about Gemini. And so none of his friends can understand what he's talking about when they're talking about Gemini until Benedict is able to figure it out. It's his long lost twin brother he got separated from. See, Benedict himself is an orphan, and he had a twin brother. Him and his brother got separated because the orphanage who adopted Benedict only wanted him. So he told his brother he'll go back for him, and when he did, his brother had like escaped the orphanage and everything. He didn't know what happened to his brother, but now he knows his brother is now Mr. Curtin, his enemy that he never knew about. and they're played by the same actor, by the way. And so like, so that's pretty much it. So this is a very odd, interesting show, and it's very interesting. It is a kids show and stuff, and so it's like, I don't know. I'm gonna keep with this show because it seemed very like intriguing and everything. Um, is it technically a kid show? I guess so, since it's based off kid novels and everything. But just like with Harry Potter, it has like a small tint of edge to it. Or actually, I should say the worst, which has a small tint of edge to it. There's nothing scary in this that's gonna make, oh, parents can't show their kids and nothing like that. But cause I guess like all the real violent stuff happens off screen, like with number two beating up those guards. That's all off screen. So for the most part, yeah, I think kids can watch this. They can be intrigued and they might learn something because them questions are a huge head scratcher and stuff. It's like taking like the SATs and all that other stuff. Like, oh God, not that stuff again. Alrighty, well, I'll talk to y'all later. Bye.